All right. What's up, Not Just developers? Welcome back to a new Friday stream. And today I'm coming with a brand new project, something very exciting. Today we're gonna build the OnlyFans clone using React Native. So I don't know who has been waiting for this build, but I'm pretty excited about this, especially doing the research part for building this application. So this build is going to cover both the front end and the back end of the application. And I want to mention that it's not specifically about OnlyFans, even though we're gonna base our application on the user interface of OnlyFans. We can think of this kind of application like a paywalled content sharing application. So it's not just about sharing nudes, it can be used in a lot of other ways, and I think there are a lot of project opportunities out there that can benefit of this kind of approach. You share content behind a paywall, and users directly support the creators. I think there are a lot of other applications like Patreon that are using the same model. And I hope that you will enjoy this build and you can take some of these learnings and implement it in your own project. As I said, in today's video, we're gonna focus on building the user interface using React Native. This is going to be a mobile application that we're gonna build both for iOS and Android. And we're gonna do that using Expo, of course. So in a moment, we're gonna get started with that. Next week, we're gonna take this build to the next level and we're gonna implement the backend side in order to have a fully functional application where users can sign in, create their account, share their posts, and also subscribe to our users. Before we get started, make sure to download the asset bundle that you can find at assets.notjust.dev/onlyfans, where you can follow the link in the description below. And also you can find the step-by-step guide on notjust.dev. We're also going to provide the link in the description below. This asset bundle will contain code snippets, images, and other stuff that, not that kind of images that you expect, but maybe, I don't know. Check it out, download and see what you can find there. But what you're gonna need from there is some dummy data that we're gonna use to build today's project. If you're new on this channel, guys, hello, my name is Vadim. Nice to meet you. And on this channel, I'm sharing with you how to build full stack mobile applications. So if you're on your journey to become a full stack mobile developer, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Because we're going live every single Friday with a brand new project, and it's always some exciting projects. And with that being said, I think we are ready to get started. First of all, hello everyone in the chat. How are you doing, guys? Let me know where are you joining us today from. Oh, yeah, I see a lot of people interested in building the OnlyFans. All right. Sarab is saying, I'm going to do the research too. Yes, definitely. We always should do the research before jumping into the implementation phase. All right, so let's go ahead and get started because we're going to have to wait a bit for our application to initialize. We're going to get started with by initializing our React Native application, and we're going to use Expo for that. Let's open up a terminal. I'm going to zoom in a bit here. I'm going to put it in this mode. Let's go to projects. Navigate to a folder where you keep your projects. Here is mine, OnlyFans. And once you're in that project, we can go ahead and initialize our Expo application. And for that, if you're new to Expo, you don't have to install Expo CLI globally. The only thing that you need at this moment is to have Node and especially npm. Because in the next phase, we're gonna use npx command, and we're gonna use create Expo application. And npx will go ahead and check if you already have this create Expo application command installed on your machine. If it will have, it will use that. Otherwise, it will automatically download the create Expo application tool. And I would like to also specify that I want to use the latest version of this tool, to always use the latest version of Expo. And what I also want to do is I want to start with an example project, and specifically with router, in order to have Expo router automatically set up in our project. That's going to save us a little bit of time of setting up Expo router, and we can talk more about Expo router a bit later, but in general, this is going to help us implement navigation and routing in our application. Lastly, let's go ahead and give a name, so OnlyFans, and press enter, and wait until Expo initializes, downloads, and sets up our project. So while we're waiting for things to install, I can cover some questions. When is Expo a bad choice? Well, nowadays, in 99% of the situation, Expo is the way to go, is the recommended way to go to build React Native applications. Because in the past, like 4 or 5 years ago, there were some limitations going with Expo. And back then, there was these questions like, should I go with Expo or should I go with React Native CLI? Nowadays, Expo fixed a lot of those limitations. So going with Expo will, you will not get into these limitations anymore. I can go more in depth, like technical of how everything works, but in general, just go with Expo. Like that's the rule of thumb nowadays. And I see that my project is ready, and I can already open it in Visual Studio Code. Let's go ahead, and I'm gonna write code OnlyFans, and this will open the project in Visual Studio Code. If you don't have this code snippet, you can open Visual Studio Code, and from here go open and navigate to the project that was generated. Once we are here, let's go ahead and open a terminal. You can do that at the top, terminal, new terminal. And here, let's go ahead and start the server. We're going to do that by running npm start, and I just want to see the application running on our device. After that is done, I can press on I to open the application on iOS simulator. If you have this set up, for example, if you're working on a macOS system and you have Xcode installed and set up, then you're going to have access to iOS simulator. However, if you're working on a Windows or a Linux machine, you will not be able to run it directly on iOS simulator. For that, you need Xcode and a macOS system. However, you'll be able to open it on Android emulator. For that, you'll have to go through the Android Studio setup to install Android Studio, and with it, you'll install the Android emulators. However, if you don't want to go through all of this struggle, there is an easier way. The easy way is to download Expo Go application, which is available both for Android and iOS. You can find it on Market, just search Expo Go, download it, and when you open Expo Go, go ahead and scan this QR code that was generated for us. That will automatically open the application on your physical device, so you don't have to worry a lot about having emulators, simulators installed, and all of that stuff. That's the easiest way. All right, now I see the project is running. Let me move it here. And what do we see right now on the screen is welcome to Expo, and at the bottom we see a white button saying that we need to basically create the app folder and the index file. So if we press on this button, it will automatically create this directory in our source files, in our project. And yeah, let's go ahead and do just that. Press on this button. We see another screen, which is Hello World. This is the first page of your application. And to understand how this happened is by pressing that button, we created the app directory. Inside the app directory, we created the index.js file. And here we have a hello world. If you change something here, you'll see it reflected on the screen. And this structure of having the app directory and the index.js here is coming from the Expo router and the way Expo router is working. I'm not going to get into too many details, but Expo router is a file-based navigation system. And what does that mean? It means that we simply create files inside a specific directory, and those files will be mapped to different screens in our application, and Expo router is taking care of all the navigation configuration. So the way Expo router is working is for every file inside our app directory, it creates a screen inside our application. So the index.js is the home screen, and later on we're going to create new files, for example, for profile screen, also here in the application. But until then, we're going to get there. By the way, if pressing that button didn't work, you can manually create this app directory by doing new folder. You create the app directory and then the index.js file with this code. At the moment, we will delete everything from here, like we need an empty page component that we're gonna start from. If that still doesn't work, you can go ahead and stop the server by pressing Ctrl+C and restart it by using npm start. And you can also do -- clear to clear all the cache. Once that is done, we can rerun it, and that will definitely fix any kind of problems related to the Expo router. Here we go. Felipe is asking, is there a way to subscribe to know Expo updates like Reanimated, version 3, and so on? You can subscribe to their newsletters, or the best way to know, to keep up to date with everything that is happening in the React Native world, and also other content related to Node.js development. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that at notjust.dev by scrolling down the page and subscribing to our newsletter. We're sending a new issue every twice a month, so once every 2 weeks. Hopefully we're gonna get to a weekly newsletter, because there are so many people that enjoy it and take a lot of value out of the issues that we already sent in the past. So yeah, there I'm documenting everything that is new in order for you to stay up to date. I'm here for the title. Yes, it works. Perfect. Hopefully you're here for you came for the title and you remain for the content and for learning React Native. And for that, let's go back to our application. We have the starting point of our application, and we are ready to get started with rendering our first parts of application. Before that, I'm going to take an optional step in order to get rid of these red error warnings. They're nothing bad, like your application is going to work, but it's a bit annoying. So I'm going to just create this gsconfig file. And I'm going to say in the JSX, it's React JSX. And by doing that, if I come back here, yes, that error was fixed. Again, that was optional. If you didn't see the red warnings, don't bother with this. So the first step that we will have to do is, let's go ahead and probably clean our main container here and only leave our page container basically. Let's do the same for the styles. So this way we have basically a clean canvas to start working from. Now, I'm going to start with rendering the home screen of our application. And in the real OnlyFans project, like the home screen displays like some kind of posts and also recommends users to follow. We're gonna keep it simple, and we're going to, on the home page, we're going to render different users as recommendation, or users that you are already following. And to do that, we're gonna start from the smaller building block from this screen, which is going to be the displaying one user on the screen. So as you can see, to display one user, what we are going to do is we're going to display a background image, which is going to be taken from the cover, like the cover of that person. Then on top of it, we're going to display the user avatar, the name, and the handle on the bottom here. Perfect. Let's jump into code and start building this. So, we will also need some data. And for that, we will go ahead and import the data from the asset bundle. Give me just 1 second to find it on my computer. It should be here, live streams. So after downloading the asset bundle that you can find the link in the description, open it, and here there are the folder with assets. So let's just drag and drop the assets in the root of our project like this. And here let's put copy folder, and we see right away the assets, and inside the assets there is the data with a list of users. I prepare this information for you so we can easier work with focus on rendering things, not on writing dummy data. As we can see, every user here has a cover image. It has an avatar, name, handle, bio, and other information that we might need a bit later. Let's go back to our index.js from app index.js. And here we're going to start rendering this user container. As we saw on our keynote, we have like basically a container that later on we're going to make into an image. On top of it, we're going to have an image and some text. So I'm going to start with a view. And a view is a simple container in React Native that we can use to group things together and style them. To provide a style, we're going to do style equal styles.user card. Let's provide the user card here. Now that we provided the styles.user card to our view, we have to specify some styles in our style sheet. I'm going to start with an empty style, an empty object for it, and later on we're going to try to focus and build the styles for this card. Inside this user card, we remember that we are rendering the image, and we're rendering some text there, like the name and handle. Name and handle. Let's go ahead and start with a name and handle because this is quite easy to render. The name and handle is going to be simple text, and to render text on the screen, we cannot do it just like that, like, I don't know, Elon Musk, because we will get an error because the strings in React Native should be rendered inside a text component. This text component is imported from React Native and is a default and basic component that helps us render strings on the screen. So the first one, the name, is going to be Elon Musk. What else? And we have another text, which with a name, which one? With a handle, something like this. At the moment, we might not see anything on the screen just because the text are behind this notch. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to specify some margin top or padding top for our container to move everything down by 50 pixels. I can do it even 75 for now. By doing that, we already see the strings in the middle of the screen here on the top. What else I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this align item center because it will mess up with our design a bit later. So let's just start from the beginning. Let's also reduce the padding to 10 because 24 is too much padding for our page. Okay, we have a text and we have a handle. But the thing is that before the text and the handle, we have to render the user avatar. To render an image in React Native, we're going to import the image component from React Native. And let's go ahead and render it here. Image, and it's a self-closing tag. Like we don't need to provide anything inside because we're going to handle the image and what we want to render using properties of the image. And the property that we want to use is the src. And here we can provide the source for this image. We can take a source from here, a URL. It should be a URL to a public image, publicly available image. So you can easily copy it from here. I'm gonna take it from the avatar. I'm gonna put it here. Later on, we're going to replace it with proper dynamic data. Now let's just render it statically like this. And the thing is that we do not see anything now on the screen. This is a very common problem when rendering images because we, besides specifying the source, we should also specify the style and give width and height to this image. Without that, it's not going to render. So let's provide the style with its name user image, and let's go ahead and define this user image style, and we're gonna go with some width, like I don't know, 100, and height 100, just to see it on the screen. All right, it's already there. Perfect. We're gonna slowly build this UI as we move on. Now for the user card, to see where this user card is, I'm gonna provide a background color, something like a gray, and a bit later, as I said, we're gonna make it into the background image. If I do dark gray, no, gray is okay. What I want to do is I want to probably add some padding to this user card because now everything is close to the borders. So if I do padding, should I work with padding here? I don't know. Let's try. Padding 10. That's gonna add a bit of spacing around our items. I also want to render the image and these texts in the same row, not in different rows on top of each other. To do that, to render different elements in the same row, for the parent component, which is our user card here, we can specify flex direction. And by default, the flex direction is column, but if we change it to row, that's gonna put the name, all the children of this component into the same row. And because this user card has 3 children, they are all in the same row as we can see here. The thing is that we wanted the name and the handle to be on top of each other, to be in the same column, not in the same row. So what we can do is we can simply wrap them inside another view like this. And now our user card has only 2 childs, the image and this view. If I do it like this. And this view has 2 texts, and because we didn't provide any styles, by default the flex direction is column, and it displayed them in the same column, the name and the handle. If we want to render this part on the bottom of the screen, on the bottom, not on the top, we can specify that in the user card by specifying align items. flex end. By default, align items is flexed start and everything starts from the top. We can also provide here center, and that will horizontally align them on the same line. But what I wanted here is flex end, like this. Yeah, something like that. What else? For the user image, I'm going to go ahead and let's make it round. So I'm going to provide border radius 100, and that will make it fully round. And also we want to add some a border color, like border color white, to have like some actual border around it, and a border width to specify how wide it should be. For example, 3. Now it's we can see the image much better. Maybe we can even do 5, or 3 is okay. Perfect. For the user image, we can provide margin right 20 to move the text a bit more to the right. That's okay. And for these texts, let's go ahead and style them as well. We can do that inline. It's not always necessary to extract the styles into the style sheet. Sometimes it's easier just to write them inline, even though it is recommended to separate the rendering logic from the styling logic. I'm going to go ahead and provide the styles here because they are quite simple. For example, what I want to change the color to white, the font size to 22, and the font weight, I want to make it a little bit more bold, like 500. And for the handle, I'm gonna do only color white. Yeah, that should be good. You can play more with margins, for example, margin bottom, if you want 5, that's gonna separate them a bit like this. Yeah, that should look good. Okay, the last thing that we want to do here, if we look at the design, is to render an image on in the background of this container. Actually, before that, let me go ahead and switch from writing static and hard-coded data for the image, for the name, for the handle, and let's take it dynamically from a variable. For that, let's go ahead and import the users from our assets data users inside our page, and let's do import users from assets data users. And for the user that we want to render right now, let's extract it from, let's take the first users from that array. If we look at these users from this file, it's an array of multiple users that we're gonna use in the next step to render a list of users. The thing is that now we only need one of them, so let's take it from here. Now we can go ahead and replace, for example, the source, and instead of having the hard-coded string here, we can provide a variable. But to provide a variable, we need, instead of codes for the string, we need to provide the curly bracket and to provide the value that we want to provide here. So it's going to be user.avatar. If we look in our data, user avatar is the link to the avatar. Now the same thing with the name. Here, instead of writing Elon Musk, we can go ahead and display the name that is coming from the user. So you might expect that you do user.name, but this will literally write user.name here on the screen, because we forgot to put it in the curly brackets. So if we put it like this, that will allow us to access a variable that we define above, and we will access the name of a user this way. The same way here, let's remove everything except the @ symbol, and then use curly brackets to access user dot user or handle. How is it? Handle. Like this. Perfect. Now if we change here, not user set position 0, but at position 1, we see that the name and the avatar changes dynamically. Perfect. As I said, the next step is to start using the cover image for the background image of this container. To display background images, we can hack it with an image, render it with absolute position, and that's gonna work. Or we can use a simple background or image background that we can import from React Native. This image background is a combination of a view and an image component. So I'm going to start by replacing our view that has the style user card with this image background. Make sure that it replaces the closing tag here at the bottom also with image background. And if I do it like this, nothing changes, everything is still working. But we can also provide a source here. And the source can expect a URI that we can take from the user.cover image. If I do it like this, we see that the background, the container, is now an actual image because we used the image background. All right, okay, that's good. What else did I want you to do here? Yeah, I wanted to round a bit the corners of this card. So for the user card, I can go here and say that I want to round the corners with border radius 5. Nothing changes because we need to also provide overflow hidden to basically hide all the overflow that goes beyond the border. So overflow hidden. Now our border radius actually shows there pretty well. I think a value of 10 will work well. Yes, that's good. The last thing that bothers me a bit is the text now became not very readable. This is a very common issue when you're trying to render text over some images, especially if the images are user generated, if users are uploading those images. The problem is that if you're displaying the text with white, the user can actually upload a white image and then the text will not be visible at all. So to fix this user interface issue, we usually provide an overlay on top of an image that has some text above. So to do that, as the first component inside the image background, we can provide a view here, a self-closing view, because we don't need anything inside. This view will only have some style, and let's provide style.overlay. Now let's go ahead and provide the styles for this overlay. Here, overlay. And what we want to do here is, first of all, let's do, I don't know, background color. Let's start with red. And we do not see anything. But if we make this overlay positioned absolute, because we don't want to mess with the other components that are inside here, we want it to be positioned absolute. And what we want to do is to have, to fill the whole container. So basically top 0, bottom 0, left 0, and right 0. This will stretch the overlay container all the way till all the borders. Now for the background color, instead of using a solid color like red, we can use an RGBA color like 0, 0, 0 for black. And if you provide the fourth parameter to RGBA, which can be 0.5, we should do it as a string like this. Then this 0.5 represents the transparency. So if it's going to be 1, it's going to be fully black. If it's going to be 0, it's going to be fully transparent. And if it's going to be a value between, we're going to have a semi-transparent overlay on top of our image. Also, pay attention where you put this overlay, because if you render it as the last item, it will also cover the other images and the other views. Like if you put it here. That's why we had to put it on the top. So yeah, that probably makes sense. And a way to simplify these 5 properties, position, top, bottom, left, and right, we can use some predefined styles from the style sheet and do style sheet absolute fill, and that will, this absolute fill, if we look at it, it has this position absolute, left, right, top, bottom. So instead of writing 5 lines, you can write 1 line with absolute fill here. Why spread types may only be clear? It's okay. What's the difference from the object? Yeah, I think absolute fill object doesn't give me error. And this way we have this card here. Okay, perfect. So as we can see, now we have developed the component that is rendering 1 user on the screen. The next step is going to be to extract this to a custom component, to send data there using props, and to put everything together in order to render a list of users on the home page. Before we do that, let me just quickly look for some comments. Love a title, not just devs, indeed. Yes, not just devs. Can you create native code in Expo? Yes, you can do that using Expo modules. That's possible. Someone is asking to check if the application is running okay on Android. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll report in a moment. Nicholas, this video is going to be published on the channel, so you can always go back and watch the tutorial from the beginning. Did he supply starter files for the project? Yes, you can download the asset bundle. We always provide that. You can find the link in the description below, or I can drop it here. Yeah, I wrote it in the chat. Should we use TypeScript or JavaScript? That's a good question. For production projects, I always recommend using TypeScript. However, if you're just getting started and you are learning, for example, React Native or any other technology, then I would recommend don't bother with TypeScript. Make sure you understand pretty well the technology that you're using, you're working with, for example, React Native, React.js, and so on. And once you do that, once you're comfortable with JavaScript, then you can go ahead and start working with TypeScript. But at some point, like, you will have to make this switch. And regarding Android, I just ran the application on Android, and it runs without any issues. Andy is asking, did you really buy that Tesla just to travel around Netherlands? No, I didn't buy it. I wish I did, but yeah, like, there are rentals. And it was quite not that more expensive than compared to the cheapest car. So I decided, yeah, that's gonna be the first time I was in a Tesla, so I went for it. It was really, really nice driving it around. Hello, Edwin from Venezuela. All right, guys, so let's move on with the next steps. And the next steps that I want to do here is I would like to extract the code that is responsible for rendering this user card into its separate component. In React Native, a component is a simple function. So if I do here function user card, and if I return some JSX, that makes this function a component. So what should I return here? Well, we should return everything that includes this image background. So let's copy the image background code, basically everything except the root view, and let's put that into the user card. Now that we have this user card component, we can go ahead and use it inside our page component and render it on the screen. How do we render a custom component? Well, we do that in a very similar way as we were rendering pre-made components like a view, a text, or an image. We simply open the brackets, we write the name of a component, which is the name of our function here, user card. And if it doesn't need any children, in this case it doesn't, we close it right away, and just like that we see it on the screen. The cool thing is that now we can render two of them, and it renders there on the screen. I already see that we need some vertical margin on the user card, so let's do margin vertical 5 to add some spacing between the cards. Now it looks much better. And that's how we extract code into custom components, and that's how we render it in other parts of our application. But without sending some data to these custom components, extracting it into custom components doesn't make a lot of sense, because rendering it twice will render basically the same information. What we are interested in is we want to send different data to these user cards, and inside the user card receive this dynamic data and render different basically images, names, and so on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this user from here, and we're gonna receive an error property user that does not exist, because in this user card we were getting the user from that variable. Now what we are interested in is we want to receive this user from the properties of our user card. And the properties of the user card is the variable that we receive here, props. We can get the user outside the props, like this, props.user, and we see that cover image, we see another error, cover image cannot be read from undefined. That means that here where we're trying to access cover image from user, we cannot do that because we didn't pass any user to the user card when we rendered it. Now going down here, we in order to put everything together, we need to send these properties that our component is expected. The component expects the user property. We need to send it here as user. So which user should we send here? Let's take the first one from our array, like this. And for the second one, we're gonna do users at position 1. And just like that, we are sending different data to two different cards, and they are managed by this component. It receives it through props and uses it dynamically based on the data that it receives. This way we can have basically the same user interface, but different data that renders inside it. To simplify this thing, we can extract users, destructure users from the props, because when you have user and user, you can do it like this, destructuring it from the props. And you can take it one more step and destructure it right away here in the function parameters. If you do it like this, you're destructuring the user data from the props, and it takes it from the data that we are sending from the upper component. All right, so that's how we extracted the code for a separate component, and we also send data for props from the upper component that is using the user card down to the child component user card itself. The next step is to put it into its own file. It is always recommended to keep one component per file, so that's what we are going to do. At the moment we have user card and page in this index.js, and yeah, it's not based on best practices. To extract it into its own file, before that I would like to create a new folder called src, and in this src we're gonna keep all the source code for the application. So inside it I'm gonna create another folder called component, and inside the components let's create a file for our user card.js. For the user card, what I'm going to do, instead of only getting the user card, I'm going to copy everything from the index.js, copy it to the user card. It's going to be much easier to delete things that we don't need. For example, this page from the user card we don't need. From the styles, the container we don't need. And we should check in the import statements the things that are with gray. For example, the users array we don't need. Now, the only step that is left in this file is to export this user card. To do that, we can write export default at the beginning, and this way we are exporting it from this file, and that will allow us to import the component inside app index.js. Because now from here, I'm going to remove the user card, and I'm going to have to import user card from source components user card. And this way, everything is working as it was working before, but our page component is much more cleaner. It contains only one component. Let's finish cleaning up and leave from the styles only the container here, because the other styles are related to the user card. And image background we don't need, image we don't need, and text we don't need. Just like that. Okay, perfect. So now, as you can see, our page component is responsible for rendering the home page. At the moment it renders 2 user cards. It's quite a clean component. And the user card component as well is responsible for only one thing, rendering one user card, knowing the data or receiving the data through the props. Perfect. What this allows us to do is, yeah, we can render multiple users here, like user 0, user 1, user 2, and so on. But we want to dynamically render all the users from this array, basically all the users from the data that we are using. For all of them, we want to render one card like this. To render a list of components on the screen, we will use a component called flatlist from React Native. And the way flatlist works, I'm going to put it here. Let's render it and self-close the tag. The flatlist, as I said, helps us render lists of data. So the two required properties that a flatlist expects is data, which should be an array of things that we want to render. In this case, we want to render all our users. And the second parameter, the second property of a flatlist that is also required is a function that specifies how should we render every single user from here. So render item, as I said, is a function that should render something on the screen. What should it render? It should render a user card. So for every user, we render a user card. The thing is that we also have to send here the user property. Where do we get it from? Well, we get it in these parameters. When flatlist will call this function, it will send us an object with some properties. One of them is the item, and the item will be specifically one of these items from our array. So the first time it renders, it's this one, and this is exactly the data about one user, and we can send it to the user card here as item. Just like that, we can remove a previous user card here and leave only the flat list, and we see a scrollable array of users. Perfect, amazing. And with that being said, we are done actually with the homepage for now. I can also go ahead and say shows vertical scroll indicator and provide the value of false to remove a scroll indicator that displays on the right here. Now it looks much more cleaner. All right, so as I said, we're mostly done with the homepage that renders a list of users. The next step is going to be to render the profile page. Whenever you press on one of these users, I would like to navigate to his profile page and there to render more details about your user, to render his posts and so on. So if you're ready, we can get started. Before that, let me go ahead and commit everything just for us to have a point in time. Git commit home page UI. And with that, we are ready for the next tasks. Let's see what are people saying here. Are you following along, guys? Do you enjoy it so far? Can you do a video for optimization of a flat list when I take data from a JSON? We might do something like that. However, we have already a video for flat list optimization, and it actually is presenting another library for that is a replacement for flat list, which is flash list. So if you look on our channel for the videos, you can find that flat list optimization. Hi, saying thanks a lot. Because of you, I earned my first $500 as a React Native developer. That's amazing. Congratulations on the first money made as a developer. That's a very nice feeling. I remember myself, the first money I made as a developer, like it was mind blowing. I coded, back then I was into game development, and I found a client. And in 2 days, even I think it was done in 1 day, but it was like hardcore. Like I was working probably 20 hours a day. I built a prototype in Unity, and I made also around $500 or $400. And for me, it was like, oh my God, like it's so amazing. Like it's possible, you know. Hello, Hero Plays. Hero Plays, check out the Uber clone that we have on the channel. We already have done it. Okay. So now that we have our homepage created, let's go ahead and continue our application with the details page. For the details page, what we are going to do is let's go ahead and inside up, let's create a new folder for our screens related to a user. So the folder is going to be called user. And inside the user, let's go ahead and add the index.js. Here, I'm going to use the React Native snippets to generate a blank component. You can copy the code from here. And I can do profile page. Export default, profile page, and here, profile page. And in order to see this on the screen, we also will provide some styles like margin, top, 100. Okay, we created this screen under app user index. But the thing is that Expo router by default renders the index.js from our application. So how can we navigate from the index.js all the way to the user folder? As I said, Expo router is a file-based navigation system, and the way we will navigate to this user folder is in a very similar way as how we would navigate on the web. You'll provide the URL /user, because that's our application, /user, and redirecting to the /user will render automatically our profile page. Okay, to do that, where we will do that navigation? We will do that navigation in the user card. So let's go ahead and open user card, because whenever we press on this user card, we want to navigate to /user to render the user page there. To implement this linking, we need a component called link from Expo router. The easiest way I can explain this, how this link works, is if we start by implementing it on top of a link or on top of a text. So for example, if I do here after this text, or where? Let's do somewhere here. If I render a link with text open user page, and if I provide to the link the href of /user, because that's how our folder is called, then if I press on this open page, I don't think you can see it well, but I can put the styles white here. And we're going to do it a bit differently. Here I just want to show you how it works. Or let's do red. So if I open on this red open user page, it automatically redirects me to the profile page, and we see the text from here, profile page. Okay, I'm gonna press R to restart the page to go back on the home screen. And yeah, as you can see, we simply provide the path to our file, and Expo router will automatically map this path to the file that we have in the application directory. And because we have /user, it will go in the user directory and will take the index.js file from there. The thing is that we want to handle this redirection not only when we press on this text, but also when we press on the whole container. So what we will have to do is we will move the link from here as the root component above the image background, and the closing tag should be after the closing of the image background. So we have link, then image background, and the rest goes there. Now the thing is that by default the link will render a text component, but in this situation we are rendering not a text component, we are rendering like actual image background. So by passing a property, I'm gonna remove this style, by passing a property as child to the link component, user card as child. Come on. I think, yeah, I left this open user page here. Should have deleted it. By passing as child, the link component will use the child component as, instead of rendering a text. So now if I'm gonna try, we don't see any errors, but if I'm gonna try to press on something from here, nothing happens. And why? Because our image background does not have an on-press event handler. So the way link component works is the first child component inside it should be a component that can handle on-press events. One of these components is called a pressable, and the pressable is a normal view, but it can handle user press events. So inside the link, we're gonna do pressable here, and we should close this pressable after closing the image background like this. And if I do it like this, now you should see like we have a link, we have a pressable that can handle on-press events, then we have an image background with the rest of the code. Now if I press on them, it works and it opens the page there. To go back, let's implement going back functionality because I don't want to refresh the page every time we navigate there. So let's open the app user index.js here, and let's add a new text file, a text component that will write go back. And when we press on this text, I want to redirect back to the previous screen. To do that, we're gonna use again Expo router, and for that we need access to the router. So let's go ahead and take the router at the top of our component using the use router hook. As you can see, it was automatically imported from Expo router. And by providing the on-press event to our text component in a function here, we can say whenever we press on this text component, we want to call the router.back function. So now if I go to the page and press go back, we are back on the first page. And that's how easy it is to implement navigations between screens with Expo router. We simply create the files inside our application directory. Then we link to them using the link component imported from Expo router and using the location, the href, to the file that we want to link towards. And this way we can move from one profile page to another. The next step, also related to the navigation, is passing dynamic properties whenever we navigate. Because at the moment, pressing on any of these users will simply navigate to this user index file, and there is no way for us to understand what actual user is this profile page, and we will not know how to render the information about that user. So the thing is that we need to navigate to a specific profile page of a specific user. If you know, like from web development, usually like when you share a URL to some profile page, the link usually contains the ID or it contains the handle of a user in a way like this, like /user/ I don't know, 123 or Vadim Savin, something like that. And having this URL, we can parse the data from here, and we can use it to render the information specifically about that user. So what I want to do here is I want to send the ID of a user for the link. I want to link to specific user based on the user ID. For that, I need to switch from a normal string to a template string, because this part of the URL is going to be dynamic. And to put the dynamic variable here, I'm going to write the $sign and curly brackets to access the user.id. Now, user.id. Now it probably will not work. Yes, because what we are doing right now is we are not redirecting to /user, but we are redirecting to /user/something else. And the thing is that there is no file that can handle that route there. For that to work, we need to transform from a static route index.js inside the user to a dynamic route that can handle this use case of different pages with different data. To do that, we're going to simply rename this from index to square parentheses, and inside this we can put a variable name that we want, like it can be anything. In our case, we know that the variable name is the ID of a user, so that's why I'm going to put specifically ID here. And because we put that in curly brackets, it's going to dynamically parse the part that comes after the user. It's going to parse inside the ID. So now it's going to work when we click on it. Now the last step inside the profile page, we need to get access to this ID. We need to know which user did we press on. To do that, there is a hook called use search params, also from Expo router. And this search params will contain all the data, all the search params from that is automatically parsed from the URL. And this data in our case is the ID. Now, if I render this ID on the screen, profile page, ID, we should see that if I press on Elon Musk, I see profile page 1. If I press on the second one, it doesn't work. Why is it not working? User 2. That's interesting. Everything else is working, but for the second user, it doesn't work. Let me check the dummy data for the users. It's ID 2. It should work. Very, very weird. Let me try it again. Yeah, now it works. There's probably some caching. So now the data that we are sending from the user card here through the href, basically user/user ID, is passed automatically to this file and is parsed dynamically and provided to the search params, specifically to the ID, because that's how we call the variable here in the file name. And that's how we can send data and navigate to specific pages. Now what I can do is I can import again the users from our dummy data, and I can look for the user with this ID. So the user that we want to render is users.find, and we will find it based on the user.id if it's equal to the ID that we got here. Now we can check if user was not found. We can render some text here, user not found. Otherwise, we need to return this, sorry. Otherwise, we will render this information here. For example, profile page. Now instead of ID, we can say user.name. And if I press on Elon, I see Elon, Jeff, and so on. Perfect, amazing. So now we have two pages that are linked together, and the data that we need to work with is also linked together, passed correctly, and we can go ahead and dynamically, having this data, we can go ahead and implement the user interface of our profile page. And that's what we're gonna do in the next step. Oh, I see people here debating regarding AI. Let me see where the conversation started. Unknown is asking, I'm learning React Native, but afraid that after a couple of years, AI will replace us. AI will never replace us, don't worry. But AI will help us build 5 applications in 1 week, 1 day. So I read a very interesting quote these days is AI will not replace you, but another human that is using AI might actually replace you. So the question is, are you getting on board with AI? Are you using it nowadays? Are you learning it? Are you implementing it in your day-to-day work in order to avoid someone else using AI replacing you? So be smart about it. Keep an eye on it. Of course, be reasonable. But we still have a lot of things to cover today. We still have a couple of screens left. So let's go ahead and start actually working. Because the next step is to render the user interface of our profile page. And how everything starts here is as well with an image background on the top and so on. Yeah, we already know how to work with image background. So let's start with rendering the cover image. So I'm gonna use an image background. And as the first child of this view, let's go ahead and use image background. And for the source URI, we're gonna use the user.cover image to render it. Okay, and we should also give some styles here. But we didn't initialize the styles, so let's import style sheet from React Native. And down below, let's define the styles using the style sheet.create like this. So for the image background, we're gonna do styles.cover. And let's go ahead and give some styles to this cover. It will have a height of, 200 pixels and a width, full width. So we're gonna use 100% for that. Okay, something like that. And in this case, I actually don't need the margin top on our view because I want this image to actually be behind the notch and to expand all the way till the top there. Something like this. Okay, for the background image, that's okay. I think we can also add that overlay. So let's do view with styles.overlay. And we can go ahead and copy the styles from the previous screen, or we can simply do style sheet absolute fill object and the background color of RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.5. Okay, something like that. As we can see from the design on top, we should have first of all the back button for the navigation, then the name of the account, and here some statistics about the account. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So inside the image background here, we're gonna have the icon for the back button. To get an icon, we're gonna use Expo vector icons. So let's go Expo vector icons, search for them. And on this website, we have access to a lot of icons. What we are interested in is in the back button, which should be a simple arrow like this. Let's import it from Icons. It shows us how to import it. And it also shows us how to render it. Where do we want to render? We want to render it inside our image background. So here I'm gonna render it like this. I don't see it, but that's most probably because it's behind the notch. So if I add another view there with style margin top 50 or 40, now I see that icon, and it should have a color white like this. As you can see, this thing like with margin top 40 works on my device, but on devices that do not have a notch, it will have too much space on the top. So for that reason, instead of doing margin top here, we can use a smart component from React Native called Save Area View that handles specifically this use case. And we can replace this view with a margin top 40 with the Save Area View. And everything inside this Save Area View will make sure to be displayed not behind the notch. So in this situation, we can remove a margin top 40, and we will see that our button is displayed properly here, not behind the notch, because of a Save Area View. I can add some padding probably, or padding horizontal, or in general padding like 10 in order to have some space on the left as well, maybe 20, and it shouldn't be. Okay, maybe margin horizontal 20. No, 20 is too much. 10. Yes, 10. Okay, that's good. That's for the icon. And when we press on this icon, what I want to do is I want to do router go back. So let's copy this on press event from our go back button and put it on our icon. And the good thing is that icons from Expo Vector Icons, they have this on press event handler. So now if I press on the icon, I'm redirected back. And with that being said, I can get rid of this go back text because our go back functionality will be handled by this icon. Perfect, let's move on. The next, on the right of our icon, we have the name of the account and some statistics about it. So let's go ahead and render that. So after the icon, as I said, we have a name, which we're gonna take from user.name. Okay, probably it's there. I don't know. Let's add some styles to see. Color white. Yes, it's there. And below it, we're gonna have some statistics. So this statistics is how many posts, how many likes, and how many fans. So we're gonna have, I don't know, 1.4K posts. Then what's next? Likes. Likes and fans. As we can see here on the screen, there is a separator between these items. And it's quite easy because this separator is an actual, we can find this separator by, I don't know, searching dot in the middle symbol, and we can copy it right away from Google. And this will render an actual dot there. So I can put it after the post and after the likes. Now, yeah, we see it there. Perfect. The thing is that we want the name and these statistics to be on the right of our icon. So if you remember from the beginning of our video, when we had to do that, we had to specify the flex direction on the parent component, and the parent component is our safe area view. So let's go ahead and provide here flex direction row to render them in the same row. Now we want these two tags to be displayed in the same column. So for that reason, we're gonna wrap them in a empty view, like in a view without any styles, because by default, the view will render them in the same column. But now what happened? Oh yeah, everything is okay. And for this view, what else? The icon probably will have some style, some margin, right, like 10. It can be bigger. The name of the user as well, we can increase the font size, 22. Or 20 with font weight 500. And maybe margin bottom 5 to have some space between these two lines. And now, yeah, on the safe area view, I also want to specify the align items center in order to center them horizontally, and specifically this icon to be in the middle. Perfect. I like it. Okay, so with the header, we are done here. Let's move on to the next row, which renders the user avatar and maybe some icons here on the right. Here, we're gonna use a little trick to render them on top of them, of our image background. But yeah, we're gonna get to that in a moment. So the user avatar is going to be after the image background, because this image background is responsible for our cover image. So after image background, let's go ahead and add a new view with an image. For this image, we're going to use the source, and we're going to specify the user.avatar. Let's give it some styles as well. For example, a width, and height. What's going on? Oh, image doesn't exist. We need to import it from React Native. Okay, here we have it. Perfect. Should we take the styles from the user card of the image? There is avatar, user image here. Yeah, let's take it, because we also need the border radius and so on. Let's take the user image into our file and specify the styles here. Styles, user image. Okay, good. And as I said, on the right here, on the right of the image, we want to render an icon that will be responsible for sharing the profile. That icon, we can as well find it somewhere here for share button. And it can be probably this one. I don't know. Looks good. Let's render it as the next component after the user image. But we need to make sure to import font awesome also from Expo vector icon on top. Okay, I see the icon there. For the color, we can use royal blue to be in line with the colors used by OnlyFans. Is this live or pre-recorded? It's live. We are doing it now. And if you have any questions, let me know. Again, we want the image and the icon to be in the same row, so I'm gonna provide some styles to the parent component here, like flex direction row. They are in the same row, but I want the icon to be aligned on the bottom of this container. So align items, flex, and we'll move the icon on the bottom. Perfect. At the moment, we can move the icon to the right by providing the justify content, and the justify content specifies how do we want to manage the empty space inside the container. So if we do space between, it will put all the space between this between the two items, and we'll move them to the two sides of the screens. Perfect. And I think we will also do some padding, maybe like 10, for them not to touch the borders. That's perfect. And now the little trick to make the avatar overlap on top of the cover image, we can use negative margins. So for this whole container, I can say that the margin top is negative 30. And this will move the image or the whole container 30 pixels to the top. I think it should be even more, 50. Yeah, something like that. I don't think I need this text anymore, so just like that, it looks good. If we look here, yeah, I think that's good. Will we make the payment part? Do you want me to make the payment part? Because this is quite challenging. And yeah, I've been debating this today, because that's actually the reason why OnlyFans is not a mobile application and it is a website. Because actually there is no easy way to implement this kind of payments that OnlyFans implemented without having to give like 30% to the app stores. And even in that case, like it's not that straightforward. You'd have to implement your own solution for having these custom subscriptions per each user. So the idea that I had for the payments is to have in-app currencies similar to how you have in games. Then you buy the in-app currencies using real money, and you can do that through app stores and Google Store using in-app purchases as a consumable. And then you exchange the in-app currencies to subscriptions or to subscribe to users' content. And then on your backend, you calculate every month like how much you have to send to each creator based on how much in-app currencies they have. So that probably would be the only way to kind of legally implement these kind of payment methods in a mobile application to be in line with App Store and Play Store guidelines. What if you use Stripe like you did for Uber Eats? The problem with using Stripe, yes, with Stripe that would be possible, but App Store has some rules in which situation you can use third-party payment providers. And you can use third-party payment providers in some very specific scenarios, which includes like when you're selling physical goods. Like if you're implementing an e-commerce mobile application, yes, you can use Stripe. That's why we implemented Stripe in the previous project, which was the Nike application. However, in this situation, OnlyFans, these are not physical goods. These are digital goods, and it's a paywall that opens the door to more content in the application. And this kind of applications which Medium, for example, or any other newsletter or news application, they also use this model. For them, they have to go through App Store and Play Store, and going through them, you have to give them 30%. So that kind of sucks, but it's the only way to implement this kind of subscriptions and purchases in an application for this type of application. If you know any other way, or if I'm mistaken, please correct me, send me some links to the documentation, but that's what I know. Like for digital goods, you have to handle the payment through the stores. For payments, can we do Google Pay setup in our Expo? If we do payments with the approach that I suggested, to have in-app currencies, to handle the kind of subscriptions ourselves in our backend, like every month we take these in-app currencies, we check if the user still has some currency, and the user, whenever he wants to buy more in-app currencies, he would simply purchase it through Google Pay or through Apple Store. To do that, that's possible, and we can directly integrate with Google Pay, with Apple, or we can use some third-party providers that integrates with both, and we can benefit from implementing the Google Pay and Apple Pay in the application. Something like that. But we're still quite far from implementing payments. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in that, because today we still have to finish the user interface of this application. There is still quite a lot of things to do. And in the next week, we're going to do the backend side of the application, and we're going to make everything work properly. So, moving on with our homepage here, what do we need to render? So after the image, we will render the name, the handle, and the bio. Let's go ahead and do that. After this view that renders the image and the icon, here, we can render a text for the name, like user.name. Come on. Another text for the handle, and another text for the bio. So, yeah, before the handle, we also need to put this @ symbol. Perfect. Let me check. I'm thinking where to put the padding, because here I also need some padding. So instead of putting it on this view, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap everything here in a view that will represent our header, basically. I will close it after the bio, like this, and I will add the padding there. Padding 10, and this will add it both to our container that contains the user image and to our text for the name, handle, and bio. Perfect. For the name, we need some style, for the handle as well, and for the bio as well. Let's see what we have there. So for the name, we need to increase it a bit. The font size, the font weight. Here we need to display it with gray, and there probably as it is. Okay, for the name, we need to increase the font size to 20, font weight to 600. Let's open it. Okay, that's good. Maybe margin vertical 5. For the handle, I need to just change the color to gray. And for the bio, I don't need to do anything. I will just simply add margin bottom to the handle, something like 20 or 10. Okay, now it looks much better. And here, if I'm going to, if the bio for all of them is hello. Okay, never mind. Let me use ChatGPT to generate some dummy text. That's how I generated the arrays, by the way. Give me a bio for OnlyFans. Okay, enough. I just want to see a bit more text. Yeah, that's good. Maybe we can increase the line height in order to make this text more readable. So when you have a lot of text, like I recommend increasing a bit the line height to how much? 20? Yeah, something like that. And the text now becomes a bit more readable. Okay, so that's with our text here. The next step is our subscription. So we have a subscription label and then a subscribe button. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and start with the text subscription. And this text subscription, let's go ahead and style it a bit. It should have a color gray. And it should have a margin top. Quite a lot, like 20. Yes. And it should probably also be bold. Like this. Now, after this labeled subscription, we have a button. And that button contains two texts. One is going to represent if we are subscribed or not, and the other one will represent the price. So let's go ahead, and to implement a button, we can use the pressable component that, as I said before, is a simple container view that can handle the on-press events. So inside our pressable, we will have two texts. Text. One of them will say, I don't know, subscribed. And the other text will have for free or not for free. Now let's go ahead and style them a bit. For example, the text here, style. I'm going to give it styles.button text because it's going to be the same for both of them, as I only need to make it, to change the color of it. Color is going to be royal blue, and to probably also make it bold. So font weight 600. Yes, that's good. Now for the pressable itself, I can do here styles.button. And let's provide them here inside our style sheet. So for the button, what do we have there? We want to render them in the same line. So for that, I'm going to use a flex direction row. We want to have some border around. So let's do border with 1 and border color, also royal blue. Okay, that's good. Let's add some padding to have some space inside this button. Perfect. Let's add border radius to make the corners round. Like 50 will be enough. Perfect. And because we have flex direction row, we can also specify how we want to justify content and how to manage the space, the available space. What we want to do is we want to move buttons between. We want to move the buttons to the different sides of a button, to labels, the text, to the different sides of a button. So for that reason, we put space between here, to put all the space between them. Maybe we can add more padding horizontal, like 20. Yeah. Actually, the border color is not royal blue, but is gray. And I think we can increase to padding 20 both of them. Not sure. Maybe 15? Yeah. And let's do some margin vertical 10 to have some vertical spacing between the label, subscription, and this button. Gray. I can decrease it to Gainsborough. And that's a lighter shade of gray. Yeah, I think that's much better. The royal blue is definitely not the same color, but it's okay. Like, we can work with it. Here, these subscribed and for free, these are, these should be dynamic, you know. Yeah, subscribed and for free. For example, every user in that data has a subscription price. So if a subscription price is 0, yes, we should say for free. But if a subscription price is a different number, we should display the number there. So let's go ahead and conditionally render. Where is it? Either for free if a subscription price is 0, or the price if it's not 0. So to do that, we will open the curly brackets, and we should check if user.subscription price is equal to 0, question mark, then we want to display for free. Otherwise, we want to render the $sign. Then, yeah, like basically we want to render the user.subscription price. So this one is for free, but if we open another one, this one is $4.99. We need to also display the $sign. So for that, we have to put this inside a template string like this. And first of all, we're going to put the $sign for the variable here, but it will not add an actual $sign there. For that, we need to put another one on the beginning here. And we can say per month. Yeah, I think that's how it's supposed to be. Perfect. Give me just 1 second to bring some water, and we are moving to the next steps because we still have a lot of things to implement today. All right, so what do we have to do next? We dynamically render the price. If it's 0, it displays for free. Otherwise, it displays the actual price. That's good. Another thing is this label, subscribed, or should we render subscribed, or should we render subscribe? And this will be defined by a state variable. that we can define here on top. And to define a state variable, we need to import use state hook from React. So at the top, let's do it at the top. Let's have it is subscribed. Set is subscribed. It shouldn't be like this. Sorry, it should be with square brackets. We're going to take them from the use state hook. Initially, we can define a default value, false. And based on this isSubscribe state value, we need to dynamically render different kind of labels here. So I'm going to delete it from here. Let's also add this question mark operator to conditionally render two different things. Because if isSubscribed, question mark, we want to render subscribed. Otherwise, we want to render subscribe. So at the moment we see subscribe, and when we press here, we will want to move to change the state variable to isSubscribed, and that will automatically change the label. To change the state variable, when we press on this button, we should go ahead and implement the onPress event on the button itself. And using the set isSubscribed function, we just simply revert the existing value from state isSubscribed with the exclamation mark. Now we see subscribe. If I press, we see subscribed. If I press again, we see subscribe. That's cool. We can also go ahead and dynamically adjust the background color of our button, because if it's not subscribed, we need to render it a bit differently. Oh, that's going to be a bit different, a bit hard, but we're going to do it. Or yeah, it's going to take us a bit of time. But yeah, the thing is, as we can see here, if we're subscribed, the background color is white. If we are not subscribed, the background color is blue, basically. So for that, we need dynamic styles, and we're going to put the existing static styles inside an array, because we need to provide an additional set of styles. And this additional set of styles is going to be the background color that depends on the isSubscribed value. So if it's subscribed, the background color should be white. Otherwise, it should be royal blue. Okay, isSubscribed is white. Now it's royal blue. But the text disappears because we need the same dynamic style for the text as well. So the button text, oh my god, it's going to be a bit tough. But yeah, let's add the array. Let's do color here, and the color is going to be, if it's subscribed, it should be royal blue. Otherwise, it should be white. So basically, the inverted colors from the container. And we need to do the same. I'm going to copy the whole style and put it for the second button. Whew, that's a lot. So now our button actually works as we wanted it to work. When we press on it, it becomes with white background and blue text. Otherwise, it's with blue background and white text. Don't drink too much water. No, we need to drink water. Let's go. Okay, so this is the most important button in our application. What we want is people to press on this button. Have you ever pressed on this button? Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Where is your money? Okay. Whew. So there is what's next? The next part is rendering the actual post of a user. And if you're not subscribed, we're gonna see this. Subscribe to see user posts. Okay. All right, let's try to do it. So we already have a lot of things here. Image background. I want to refactor this a bit. I want, like if I'm gonna continue in the same file, this file will become very unmanageable. We already have 152 lines of code here. Now, our next step is going to be to start rendering user posts on his feed. To do that, like we're gonna have to add a flat list, to add other components, and it's gonna be a mess here. What I recommend is extracting mostly everything that we see here inside a separate component that is going to be responsible for rendering the header part of a user profile, and then have the rest on this profile page. And yeah, let's start doing that, and it's gonna make more sense as we go. Let's create a new component in our source components that is going to be called user profile header.js. And I'm going to bring everything from the app user ID, everything from here to the user profile header. The only thing is that I don't want to handle the logic of searching for a user here, because this is not the responsibility of the component that renders the header. It's the responsibility of the profile page. So I'm going to remove these things from here. Maybe subscribed not, but the ID and the user from here, definitely. Even router should be here. We're gonna take the user from the props. I don't think we need this check here, because we will make sure to have a user when we're trying to render the user profile header. Make sure to rename the component to user profile header, and down below where we exported as well, rename it. Perfect. From here, like we just need to remove the users and probably use search params. Now back in our app user ID.js, let's remove everything from the return statement here. Everything like this. And instead of all of that code, we're gonna simply render the user profile header, and we're gonna pass the user information there. And just like that, we still have the same thing, but now user profile header here, perfect. We do not need the let me think. For example, from the styles, we will not need any styles here. for now. Maybe later we will have some styles. Router, we definitely don't need the router here at the moment. We can remove some icons, refactor. Okay, like this. I'm thinking about the is subscribed because at the moment we left it in the user profile header, this state variable. But the problem is that, as you can see in the next step, the state, whether we are subscribed or not, will be used both in the header and inside our posts down below. So I'm thinking we're gonna leave the is subscribe state inside the profile page, and to the header we're gonna simply send it like is subscribed equal is subscribed, and the same with the set is subscribe. Now inside the user profile header, instead of defining this state once again here, we can extract them through the properties, the values, and this way our state is going to be managed on the page level, and we simply send that value down to the header, to the component. Yeah, just like that. Okay, perfect. So now everything that is regarding our header is going to be in this file, user profile header, and everything else regarding this profile page is going to be in the app user id.js. We did that because in the next step we want to render a list of posts. To render a list of posts, first of all, we will need a component for rendering one post. So let's go ahead and in source components, create a new file, post.js. And here I'm going to use this React Native functional export to render this post. And in the app user ID here, we will have to import the data about the post that I provided you in the dummy data, post.js. At the moment it's dummy data. In the next episode, we're going to take it from the database, from our API. But yeah, now this is a list of posts with some text, some URLs to images, likes, and so on. Let's go ahead and import it in our app user ID.js. Import posts from assets data posts. And also let's import the flat list from React Native, because we will render a list of posts. And to render every single post, we're going to use the component post from source components post. Now we need to put them together. I'm going to go ahead and start by wrapping our user profile header inside a view, because, yeah, let's also import this view from React Native. And in a moment, I'm going to show you why we need it. But at the moment, like after the user profile header, we want to render this flat list that will render our posts. So for the data, data, we will render posts and render item. We're going to take the item from here and we're going to render a post component. And we should also make sure to send the data through the props there all the way down to the post. Okay, good. So what we see here is 4 text that are rendering post, 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 post. Why is that happening? That is happening because that's what we have here in post.js. We are simply rendering text post. Well, we are going to receive the data here in the post because we sent it through properties. So let's go ahead and take it from here. and maybe start by rendering the image. So image that should be imported from React Native. And the source should be post.image. For the style, let's go ahead and say it should be a width of 100. We want it full width. And for the height, instead of specifying the height, I'm going to specify the aspect ratio of 1 because I want to render the image as a square. And right away, we see a list of scrollable posts here. Maybe it's not exactly what you expected to be when scrolling it, to scroll everything on this page. And why is that happening? Well, that is happening because of the way we are rendering the flat list inside our app user ID.js. We're basically rendering after the user profile header. So in this way, user profile header is always going to be visible on the screen, and the rest of the available space is going to be given to the flat list and is going to be scrollable. If we want the header to scroll together with the items, we can do that by providing another property to the flat list called list header component. And if you provide here, if you render something here, for example, the user profile, this user profile header, when we scroll, now is going to scroll together with our content. Perfect. And after doing this, we don't need this view anymore. We can simply render the flat list with the header component. Now we have a very basic structure for this page. The only thing that's left is to properly render information about one post there. Let me see if I have it actually. Well, we can see it on this page. If I let me do it like this to zoom it in just for us to see something from there. So we have a post header that will render some information about the user that has published, and then we have like the description, and below it we will have the image. So let's go ahead and implement that inside our post.js. So starting from the top of a post, we're gonna have a view for our header. So view for our header. Inside this view, we're gonna have an image. I think I can take it from the user profile header here. We have what? No. Okay, never mind. Let's do it together. So we have an image. For the source, we're gonna use post.user.avatar. We can double check how to get the information inside the post.js. So post.user.avatar. And for the style, it can be with 50, aspect ratio of 1 to have 50/50, and border radius also 50 to make it round. Okay, we already see something there. After the image, we're gonna have a name and the handle. So we have post.user.name, and after that we have post.user.handle with the at before it. To make them into the same row for the parent container, which is this view, we're going to style it and specify the flex direction row. Okay, let's go there. Yes, it's in the same row, but now we need to put these two texts into another view to move them back like on top of each other. Yes. Now where we have a flex direction row, I also want to align items in the center. Okay, perfect. And what? For the image, to provide some margin right, to add some spacing for between them. What else? Some padding for the whole header will be nice. Yeah, maybe 5 is going to be enough. Okay, what else? For the name, I don't know, maybe we can do some style there. Font weight 600. And I don't know, margin bottom 5. Okay, that's good. Maybe 3. And to increase the font size, to 18 is too much. 16, yeah, 16. Perfect. What else is there? At the right, we have another view with them when it was posted and some icon. So on the right of our header, after this view, after the view that contains data about the user, we will have another view that renders, first of all, a text like 4 or 3 hours ago. Okay, and an icon. For the icon, we can go to the Expo vector icons and search for one that we need. 3 dots. Yeah, this one from ntypo. And make sure to import ntypo as well. Okay, here we have it. And what's happening there? Why are you here? Well, because for this view, we need to mention that this view with 3 hours ago and the icon should move all the way to the right. To do that, we can specify the margin left, and we can say it should be auto. So put all the space on the left of our container, and this way we moved it to the right. And to display them in the same line, we remember that we can do flex direction row. Okay, this one should be gray, and to add some spacing, I'm gonna add margin right 5. We need also line items center on this one as well. Okay, that looks good. The size of this icon probably should be smaller, like this. And the text should be gray. Is it gray here? Yes, it's gray. So let's do color gray, and the same for the style of our handle. It should also be gray, but without any margin. Okay, now it looks much better. And we can scroll. Yes, perfect. In general, the view of this post should have some margins, because at the moment, like, we are too cramped together, 2 different posts, I mean. So we can specify style, margin vertical, margin vertical 10, or even more, like, will be okay, 15. Yeah, now it's clear, like, which is the post there. Okay, so the last thing inside the post, we have a header. We need to simply render the description of a post. So that's going to be after our header. Before our image here, we will have a text that will render the post dot description. Does it have post description or text? Yeah, it should be text, post dot text. And let's go ahead and add some styles, starting with some spacing. Styles. So for the style, we're gonna have margin 10 and line height, I don't know, 18. Yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe margin 5. No. 10 is okay. And just like that, we have rendered the post. Let me double check one thing to see if we have everything from this post that we need. And I'm gonna actually open OnlyFans. I'm not gonna share the screen. I'm too afraid to get demonetized for some unexpected reasons. I just want to make sure, yeah. Yeah, what I wanted to render, I wanted to render the number of likes below the container. So let me take a screenshot of an actual post here. Okay. So here at the bottom of a post, we need to display the number of likes and the like button. That's, I think, quite important. So let's go ahead and do that. After the image, we're gonna have a row with icons and another row that will render the text. Let's start with the text that will render the number of likes. I think we have this in our data, so we can specify post.likes likes. Okay. For the style here, we saw that it's just simply font weight bold. Maybe not like bold, but 500 should be okay. Yeah, perfect. And we see 10 likes here. And before that, we're gonna have a view with some icons. The icon specifically is like, comment, and maybe send tip. Let's find here like. Should be heart, yeah? Let's find heart. From end design, heart O for the outline and heart for the field one. So let's import end design here. And design and render it inside this view. This view will have some style because right away I want to add some margin 10 to add some spacing. Okay, for the text I also want margin horizontal 10. Yep. Color, for the color is good. What else? Should we just add other icons? For example, comment. Or maybe send tip. For the send tip, there was $sign. $sign inside the circle. I don't know, let's try this one from foundation. And with a text, send tip. We need to import foundation from Expo vector icons. And yeah, we need to put them in the same row. For that, this view will have flex direction row. Okay, and probably our icons will have some margin, right 10. I really don't like the send tip, so I'm gonna simply do a $sign from font awesome 5 without any text. It's gonna make a bit more sense. And also some margin. Okay, instead of black, maybe gray. And not 24, but 20 will be okay. 22. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, I think we're good with our posts, you know. Let me again double check that. Because in the next part, we're going to, not today, but next week, we're going to implement the backend side. So I just want to make sure that we have all the features that we will need in order to implement it. Okay. What I also want to do here is we need to hide the posts if the user is not yet subscribed. So if our state variable is subscribed, we need to render some kind of paywall like this, like subscribe to see user posts. So for that reason, let's go ahead in our application, and here in the profile page, let's think how we're gonna do that. How we're going to do that? Well, I think we're going to have this check before, like if is not subscribed, let's go ahead and render again this user profile header, but outside the flat list. And just like that, yeah, we need to return it, return. So if we're not subscribed, just render the profile header without anything below. But if we're subscribed, go ahead and render the profile header and the flat list with the posts. That's the simplest thing that we can do. But we can take it one step ahead and implement to render some more additional information here, like subscribe to see user posts. I think this one can be a simple button below our user profile header. So let's go ahead and put them inside a view here. Because below we want to render, I don't know, a text. Subscribe to see users posts, right? Or how? Yeah, something like that. We can also go ahead and add some icon, like a lock icon. Lock. Which one? I don't know, this one. Let's import font awesome. And let's put them inside a view that we will style for this icon and text. Starting with, let's add some style here. Let's go with, I don't know, a background color of Gainsborough. The align items center, okay. Some padding like 20 or even more, okay. And for the icon, I want to increase the size to, I don't know, a lot, like 50, and make the color gray, okay. For the text, I don't know, I can specify some styles here. I can work with a background color like royal blue. Padding 10. Border radius 10. Overflow hidden to show the border radius. Oh. So I'm gonna provide the height 50 and border radius 25. Yep, like that. Line items center or no? Wait a second. Text align vertical. No, doesn't work. I'm gonna work with padding. That should be okay. Color white. And probably margin 20. Very bad design, I agree, but it's better than nothing, you know. And if we press on the subscribe, we get read and we see users' posts. If we are not subscribed, we will see here, subscribe to see users' posts. Perfect, so this is our paywall that we're gonna use to basically protect like users' content and put it like behind the paywall, and you're gonna be able to access it only after paying. What else do we need to do here? What else? How is it going, guys, so far? Do you like it? Okay. What else? What else will we manage to implement today? Let's try to First of all, before moving on, I'm gonna go git add, git commit, profile page. Now I want to actually render I wanted to create a new screen for creating a new post. Because that screen we will actually need it in the next Friday to actually upload new posts. So for that, let's go ahead and start by implementing a new screen inside our app folder, and that screen is going to be called new post.js. Here, let's do React Native functional export for the new post. We can do it like this. Perfect. And I don't know, on the home page, I can render it somewhere here with a button, the navigation, or like with what? With a link, it's better. Yeah, Expo router. New post, and for the link we need to provide the link to where we want to redirect, and the file name is new post, so that's where we want to redirect new post / new post, I mean. So yeah, we see that item there, we are redirected to the new post. Perfect. Maybe we will implement a different button on how to navigate, but for now that's okay. I just wanted to be able to open the new post page, because now I want to create this page that will allow us to write the information about the post. So yeah, for that reason, let's go ahead and do just that. In the new post.js, what we will need here, first of all, I will probably want to import the safe area view from React Native and replace our view with a safe area view to be able to see the text right away on the screen. Sorry. What else? The next step is we're gonna have text box where we will be able to write text. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that. In this part, you're also going to learn how to work with text inputs. For that, we will need to import the text input component from React Native, and we can go ahead and render it instead of this text. Text input, boom. It's there. You don't see it yet, but if we provide a placeholder there, and the placeholder will say compose new post, compose new post, we will see it there on the screen. We can put it there and we can write text. What else will we need? Well, let's go ahead and add, like, I don't know, some padding to this safe area view. Not padding, but maybe margin. 10. 20. Yes. Oh, 10 is okay. Okay, besides the text input, we will also work with a button. I'm going to import it simply from there to have a simple default button with the title post. Here we have a button post. Let's go ahead and create a function that will handle the onPress event whenever we click on this post button. So onPost equal is an empty function. Initially, we're gonna simply console warn something post on the screen. Now let's hook it up to the button and call it whenever we press on the button. So let's put on press on post. And let's go to this page and press post, and we see the console warn. That means that our button works correctly. The next step is to be able to know what information the user wrote in the text input. To do that, at the moment, there is no way to get that information from there. Because we need to take one more extra step. We need to bind a state variable to our text input to be able to track like what is the value of the input. So from React, let's import use state. And at the top of our component here, let's define the state for our text. Set text equal use state. Initially, it's going to be an empty string. Now, inside this text input, we can send the value to be the text that we have in the state. And now if you're going to change it here, it's going to be reflected here on the screen. But changing it will revert back to what we provided initially. Because we also need to listen to on change text. And whenever that happens, we need to update the text in our state. And now we will be able to update it and it will be tracked in state. Let's initialize it with an empty string here, like this. And now on post, we will have access to this text. So during the next Friday, we will be able to actually post the information that user wrote there. And usually after you press on the button, you reset the text to an empty string. Post, empty string. Post, empty string. Perfect. The thing is that on this page, we will also be able to select images. But I think before that, I wanted also to increase the number of lines because this text input can have more than just one line. So let's increase it to, come on. Number of lines to 3. New post, and here we can, if we write a lot of text, it should go from a new line. Oh, we need to also provide multi-line property. And this way, it should go from a new line, yes. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Number of lines, 3. The next step, as I said, we want to, let's first of all render this icon for selecting an image. And we're going to do that after the text input. We're going to have a row there with different icons. And one of those icons is going to be image. This one is okay. Let's render it and let's make sure to import this font family. Okay, where is it? What happened? Why everything disappeared? What did they do? Okay, new post. Yes, here we have it. And it can be, let's style it a bit. Okay, so when we will press on this icon, on press, basically we will call a function select image. Select image, we will have to implement it here. Select image will do something. So how can we select the image from the user's device? Well, for that, we're going to use a package from Expo, Expo image picker. Let's look in the documentation of the image picker from Expo. And yeah, this package allows us to navigate through the images of from the user device and select one from there. So to install, first of all, we have to install it in our project. So let's copy this command npx expo install expo image picker, and in our project install it there. Then what we have to do is in the usage, we can look at the pick image function, and actually we can copy this pick image function because it contains an example of how we can choose an image. I'm going to put it instead of our select image, and let's go ahead and replace the function that we call when we press on this icon to be pick image. Now we need to make sure to import image picker from Expo. Come on, it would be easier like this. Yeah, import everything as image picker from Expo image picker. Now if I'm gonna press on this icon, we will see that it automatically opens the library, and I can choose an image and I can select it. The thing is that, yeah, like we, as you can see, everything this function does is using the image picker library, it launches the library itself with some options. Here we specified like what media types we want. Actually, we don't want both images and video. For now, we want only images to be able to select. We also want to allow the users to edit the image before uploading it, and we'll specify a strict aspect ratio for the image with the quality of 1. You can decrease here the quality if you want to degrade the quality of the image to save some space. After we get the result, if the result is not cancelled, then we set the URI of the result in state. The problem right now is that in state we don't yet have this set image state. So let's go ahead and define the image and set image state. Use state. Initially it's going to be empty string. Now if I select an image, nothing happened, but if I'm going to go ahead and below this icon will render the image with a source image and with the style with 100% and an aspect ratio of 1. I need to also make sure to import this image from React Native. So if I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna select one of these images, it should be rendered here. Yes, and we see it rendered there. And if I choose another one, it will automatically update it and we will see it right away there. Perfect. And now we will be able to post it using this image. New post. We can conditionally render this image because if we didn't select any image, I don't want this post button to be so low on the screen. And for that, we can put this image inside curly brackets and say, only if the image is defined, go ahead and render it. Otherwise, don't even render it at all. Yeah, now it works much better. And we can say something about this post, and we can press post, and it's gonna be posted and saved in the database later on. All right, okay, perfect. Maybe we need to add a back button from here. Let me just check one thing if it's gonna work. And then I'm gonna explain if it works. No, it doesn't want to work. I can go ahead and implement before the text input to put here an icon, like a back button. I think we had it inside our component user profile card. At the top there was the these U1 icons with router go back, so I can do the same here. I just need to import U1 icons from Expo vector icons, and we also need access to the router using the use router hook. And now the color should be gray or even black. If I press on this, I'm going back. Yeah, perfect. I can put this icon alongside with a text like new post. Oh, not here, not here. Wait a second. This icon inside the view. And here a text with new post. I just need to put them in the same line with justify content or flex direction in the same row. Okay, now it looks much better. Maybe yeah, just like that. Are you still using Expo router? Yes, for this project as well, we are using Expo router. It makes it super easy to implement navigation systems. So that's why we are still using it. And yeah, with that being said, I think we are done with the most important screens that we have for the OnlyFans application. So let me go ahead and add everything to Git. I'm gonna provide you the URL for the source code that we have today in the link in the description below, and we can have a look at what we managed to build so far. So far we started the application using Expo, and we started rendering the home screen. The home screen renders a list of users that are registered in the application, and we can go ahead and navigate to their profile screen. By default, the profile screen will render information about that user on the top with a nice background cover, with avatar on top of it, and more information about the user. And here we will also see the subscribe button. Below, if we are not yet subscribed to this user, we will see a paywall, we will see a lock screen. If we press on the subscribe button, Then we'll be able to see the user's posts. So that's also what we managed to do today, rendering a list of users' posts. At the moment, everything is dummy data, but next Friday, we're going to implement the backend side of this application, and we're going to query all of this data from the database. And also, we're going to be able to create new posts dynamically from the application by writing here, new post, selecting an image, and then uploading it on our database. So after that is done, all your subscribers will go ahead and receive a post, and you're gonna be able to monetize your content. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the build from today, and I'm gonna wait you next week on Friday to implement the backend side. If you're watching it afterwards, the backend side might already be available, so check it out on the channel page, or we're gonna try to put a link in the description for the next episode so you can continue learning full stack mobile development. If you enjoyed this build, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment what other projects you would like us to see, because we are going live every single Friday with a new exciting build. And before we start the weekend, let's see if anyone has any questions. We can talk a bit with a live audience. Which Mac are you using? I'm using the Mac Studio. It's a very powerful piece of machine, but I needed that in order to power like the streaming and also development side at the same time. Just for development, I've been using the MacBook Pro it has already like probably more than 5 years, and it still works pretty well. However, when I'm doing streams, like it was slowing down. Do you only keep screens in the app folder and keep components outside of it? The screens, they should be in the app folder, because that's how Expo router will manage your screens. And yes, anything else that is not a screen should not be in the app folder. That's why we need to put the components, the reusable components, inside another folder, which is good to keep them in the source, components, and so on. MongoDB for the database. No, we're going to use AWS Amplify next week for this project. Actually, I haven't used Amplify for a couple of projects, and it's been a couple of months. So I'm really looking forward to get back and see what's new in AWS Amplify, because there have been a lot of updates on Amplify, and I can't wait to show you what's new there. Can't wait for the Friday. Yes, me too. June is saying I also have components in app folder and had to put href to null so it didn't render. Should I move it outside? That way, the way you did it is you created this components folder there. Expo router considered it as a screen, but you went ahead and disabled that using the href null. This is kind of a hack, I would say. So I would rather keep the components and everything that is not necessarily a screen outside the app folder. I think that will also keep everything clean inside the app. Like if you're thinking about like different screens, you go in the app folder. And there you work with high-level components that represent different screens in your application. And if you want to look into the details, you're going to go into the components or some other parts of your application. Make a video on Amplify CLI. Yes, we're going to use Amplify next week. Do you have any tips on correctly getting import statements such as import chat from dot components chat? I have trouble getting the dot. I'm not sure if I understand correctly what might be the problem, but might sound obvious, but double check the the relative path. Like dot and slash means take like the way you said, like dot slash components means like import from the same directory, then go into the components directory, then chat. If that's the case for you, like it should work. However, if the components directory is not inside the same parent directory, then you need to move one directory up. So in that case, you need double dots. Long story short, like double dots is to move one directory up, one dot is to use the current directory. So I have over 100 screens. Is that okay to be in the app folder only? You will most probably not have like all 100 screens directly as children of the app folder. You most probably will have groups. The same way as we have for our project here. Where is it? The same way as we have like in our app, we have index and new post, but everything related to the user, I put it in the folder called user. And here we can have user/ID, then we can have user slash edit. So here you can have another edit.js. And what else? And this will be /user/edit. Then you can have like post, which is going to be another directory with more URLs and so on. So yeah, it's okay to have all the screens in the application. That's actually how it works. But try to group them together based on them, like logically. Robert, thank you very much for your nice comment. I appreciate it. Which one is better, Expo CLI or React Native CLI? Short answer, Expo CLI. June is saying, so I take this import logo from, look, the thing is that here, like with import logo, what you're trying to do is you're trying to move up the directory. So the first // is unnecessary. // is only useful when you're trying to move down in the directory, starting from the current directory. Let me quickly probably explain it with an example. For example, from the post, it will not make sense. I will just show you how to import different things. For example, from the post.js, if I want to import user card, in this situation, I'm going to do import user card from /, because I want to import it from the same directory and then user card. It can be like another directory, then user card, but this another directory will be a sibling of the post.js, another directory, for example. To import something from a directory above, in that situation, let's say we want to import from assets data post.js. So import assets data posts, like posts, from. We are now in the components folder, right? Because we are working in the post.js and post.js is in the components. We need to move one directory up in the source. Okay, let's move one directory up with double dots in the source. Then our assets is still not part of a source. Then we need to move one directory up to the root of our project. So that's why we have one more double dot. Then we went up until the common parent. Now we go down till the file that we want to reach. For example, assets, then data, then posts. I think the way to explain it better is to reveal it in Finder, put it like this. So we are currently in the components. We have a first double dots to move up one directory. Come on, list. So we moved into the source directory now, as you can see. Then we move one more time up, but why I cannot do that as columns? Then we move one more up in the OnlyFans project. Oh my God. And from here we go to the assets, data, and users. So this statement and this one is basically the same, but the current directory is unnecessary, you see, because we are moving up. How can we use payment gateway for Uber Eats application? Check out the videos with Stripe that we integrated on our channel. That's going to be a good starting point. Yeah, I imagine like relative paths sometimes can be a pain. All right, guys. So thank you very much for joining me and for staying till the end. I'm going to see you next Friday where we're going to implement the backend side of this application using AWS Amplify. Super excited about that. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss any our future live